No problem, huh? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City Council meeting, May 22nd, 2023. All stand for the pledge, please.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you take roll call there.
Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Garrett Donovan, Councilman at Large, present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor,
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Councilman Ronald Quagliani,
Councilman Ron Quagliani, Council at Large here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky is absent, Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite,
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite, 2nd District present.
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali,
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali, 3rd District present.
Councilman Mitchell Galagnano,
Councilman Mitchell Galagnano, 4th District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Watt Hamilton,
Councilwoman Robin Watt Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilwoman Kathy Tucker,
Councilman Catherine Tucker, 7th District, present.
Councilman Victor Boris,
Councilman Victor Boris, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno is absent, Councilman Stephen Johnstone,
Councilman Stephen Johnstone, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Peter Massaro.
Chairman Peter Massaro, 6th District, Councilman President. Thank you, Stacy.
Mr. Chairman.
And we will start public session. Anybody would like to come up and address it? Yes, Steve. That was quick.
This thing, I have this,
Yeah, I got it.
he wants to read it,
You got it?
I got it.
I got it.
Steve Green, 110 Jesse Drive. Usually I'm watching this now on YouTube, but I came in to comment about the great job that the public work guys are doing in the city. Even though we have a shortage of them, they're doing a great job at replacing the storm drains and also cutting into the section of the streets that need to be replaced. Like, for instance, that was last month when Island Lane, they did the business and they were repaving it. So about a week before they repaved it, I seen on a Saturday morning, the guys were there actually replacing a storm drain. And the other thing is, I just noticed that they cut into the section on Malloy Road from West Spring Street down to Sawmill. I think they did that on Friday, and the street was a mess before they did it, and it came out perfect. In other words, these guys are doing a better job than the contractor that you guys had for years. But they did around the corner from me on K Road a couple of weeks ago. I'm on the list. I'm on Jesse Drive, and I get nothing from the city, including Tom McCarthy, which says, I have nothing to do with it. That's the supervisors. I'd like to know when they're going to do Jesse Drive. They did tell me I am on the list, but that's all they're telling me. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a letter that we're going to read into the record. Shut this off first. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, it's from Dave Tamaro, the owner of Bullseye Shooting. It says, my name is David Tamaro, a retired West Haven Police Department sergeant of 28 years, currently employed with the United States Federal Marshals. I write each of you this description of an issue that took place on May 17th, 2023. I recently observed an advertisement encouraging West Haven businesses to participate in a program with the Milford West Haven Chamber of Commerce. This program encouraged West Haven businesses to purchase a banner from the Chamber in collaboration with West Haven Public Works. As you know, the banners would contain a pictured background and then advertise the local businesses who purchased the banner. On May 18th, I spoke with Simon McDonald, the marketing director of the Milford West Haven Chamber of Commerce, expressed my interest in the program and inquired regarding the next step, expecting to hear payment instructions to obtain a banner. That is the farthest of what took place. Simon asked about my business. I explained that Bullseye Shooting LLC is a firearms instruction business where clients learn the fundamentals of firearm safety, legal use and possession, and above all, training in such firearms, and have served over 700 clients. Mr. McDonald said, and I quote, I personally do not like guns, but let me call you right back. Within minutes, he returned my call and explained, I spoke with Tom, and I know you are a retired police officer, but we do not want any advertisement of firearms or marijuana products. I was confused and bewildered, to say the least. Bullseye Shooting LLC is a Connecticut registered and licensed business. I pay business taxes to the city of West Haven and obviously income taxes on profits earned like any business to the state and federal government. When I inquired who Tom was, he explained it was Tom McCarthy, the Public Works Superintendent. Now, even more confused, as I know Tom well, and we had just collaborated on a beach toy box I had built and with his approval installed at the Charlotte's Playground, where it has received overwhelming support from residents and visitors. Calls to Tom went unanswered. I expressed my concern to you all as the council that this practice cannot be allowed. The picking and choosing of what businesses to be advertised. Do these two individuals, Tom McCarthy and Simon McDonald, have the express right and authority to select what businesses are willing to participate? Can a Chinese or a Mexican restaurant purchase a banner, an Asian nail salon, an African hair braiding business? This is blatant discrimination based on the nature of a legal business. I have emailed the president of the Milford West Haven Chamber of Commerce as well, and have discussed this with my attorney, Patricia Co-Francisco, as we are currently involved with 2 civil litigations with our city. As a West Haven tax-paying resident, paying well over $14,000 yearly in vehicle and property taxes, and now business taxes, this is extremely unacceptable. This council has the authority to correct this, not allowing the typical West Haven discriminatory practices that has permeated yet another city program. Respectfully, David Tamaro, owner of Bullseye Shooting, and with his phone number.
Thank you, Stacy. And the record. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council? Would anybody else like to come up and address the council? Yes, Mrs. Weinstein.
Good evening, Paige Weinstein, 20 Platt Avenue. Tonight you are going to look in your packet, you have Communication E regarding using the opioid funds for AEDs in public buildings. There's a total of 18 of them, along with signs and along with cabinets. I think that AEDs are critically important in public buildings, but to use the money that is coming in from the opioid settlement, that money came on the tears and the deaths of residents, of people who have addictions. I know that Bridges, which is a town service agency, they're in Milford as well, they're in Orange as well. They deal with people with addictions. They have a van that drives around that comes to the green to help people that have addictions. No, Bridges has not been contacted at all by City Hall to say, how can we work together in handling what is a national problem. This problem, the addiction problem and the deaths, is a problem that can affect any one of us. It's not, you can't say that it's this person or that person, and it doesn't matter how much money's in their wallet or how much money isn't in their wallet. And it can affect every single family and every single person. I think for you all to approve half of what you have in the budget right now, it says that you have $85,000 in the budget. To use half of that money for something that is not related to the settlement. I mean, it technically is because they're going to stick Narcan in with the AEDs. So, but can't we get further to the problem? Can't we address this more one-on-one and make this town a leader in the fact that we are trying to do something about this issue? And I know that Bridges would love to talk to the council. They would love to talk to the health department. They would love to provide you all with a program saying this is how we can, if you would like us to facilitate some of this money, this is what we can do, and we can give you the results. We can tell you these are how many people we see. This is what we can do for you. But right now, for you just all to approve spending money just haphazardly, oh, we got it, let's spend it. You don't need to spend every dime that's in your pocket. You should be thinking it through, you should be evaluating it, and you should come up with programs and plans that use it to the best ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Weinstein. Anyone else like to get up and address the council? Would anybody else like to come up and address the council? Third and final time, would anybody else like to come up and address the council? Public session is closed at
7:10.
7:10. Clerk will read,
Oh, we gotta
Approve.
approve the minutes first.
approve the minutes for the regular meeting, May 8th, 2023. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Wait here. Motion passes.
Now I'll read communication A
Yes.
there, sir. We have communication A from the tax collector regarding overpayment refunds for May 2023, which will be filed with tonight's minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And we have communication B from Joseph Perno, Chief of Police, regarding animal shelter donations, which will be assigned to the Finance Committee, Acting Chairman Quagliani. We have communication C from Ronald Dumas, CDA Housing Specialist, regarding Neighborhood Assistance Program, which will be assigned to the Finance Committee, Acting Chairman Quagliani. We have communication D from Mark Basecchia, CDA Manager, regarding the proposed CDBG budget as set by the Citizens Advisory Committee for Program Year 49, July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, which will be assigned to the Finance Committee, Acting Chairman Quagliani. Communication E from Joe Soto, Emergency Management Director, regarding the purchase of 18 automated external defibrillators, AED systems, which will be signed to the Finance Committee, Acting Chairman Quagliani. Communication F from Colleen Bailey, Executive Director of West Haven Public Library, regarding the request of the use of ARPA funds of $1 million for the library, which will be assigned to the council as the whole. And that concludes our communications for this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, shut up.
Time's up. That's great.
All right, we'll take it up as a council as a whole, and we'll have Colleen Bailey come up and do her presentation.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today about the library's ARPA funds. As you know, I think it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, with the pandemic, there was money that was allocated for the building of a library branch in Allentown. There had been a caveat about working with the fire department in there as well. We had been looking at some land. As you all know, we've been looking at a number of different properties. The library did purchase 634 Orange Avenue back in July of 21. As part of looking at this process of moving forward with the library, we have begun actually working with the fire department. They had been looking for some land as well. We've been kind of looking at the same properties. So we decided to go into a informal agreement with them to start looking at a possible location for the library and for the fire department. We are really looking for now for some of the funding to help move that project forward. And I know that there are some timelines and time constraints on the ARPA funds, so we are looking to basically utilize that funding for some acquisition of the additional property. We're hoping to get that whole block where 634 Orange Avenue is. Looking at doing architectural renderings. There has already been an RFP that we've put together in conjunction with the fire department that we hope to see go out this week in regards to building one location for, again, one building with the fire department and the library. We are also looking to possibly get hiring a construction manager with that. There is some drainage work that is going to need to be done to make sure that all of the water runoff from building on Orange Avenue does not go further back into the neighborhood. We are also looking to do some cleanup of the site that we already own with the funds, in addition to some paving, so that way we can put a temporary location for serving the needs of the Allentown residents immediately. With that, we will look to have a few hours a week where we will be open there. Patrons will also be able to pick up library materials at that space, and we would also be looking to do some kind of ad hoc tech help from that location in Allentown as well. And the remaining funds would then be going towards the initial construction for the project itself. Fire department library buildings, there's actually a few throughout the country. I found 6 as of right now. There's a few that are also under construction. There's one in Chicago. We're looking at 2 in California, another one in Wichita, Kansas, another one in East Nashville, North Carolina, and in Brownsville, Wisconsin. So sprinkled throughout the country, this is, I think, a growing trend. We're both community services. We're both community organizations. We both help our communities. We both need new space. So we're looking to have our ARPA funds be at the same level where the fire departments are. Their money has been put into the hands of the ARPA committee. We are looking to have ours also be put into the hands of the ARPA committee so we could start utilizing those funds for moving forward this project as soon as possible. And I'm sure there's questions.
I'll open it up to anybody, any questions?
More of a comment, I guess. I guess the MARB is having an issue with the fire departments right now, and the money, so it's kind of up in the air, so to speak, with us, with where we can do it today, you know, where we can make a decision today, so hope you respectfully understand that, and then,
Yeah, I mean, and
see
we've
where we're
also
at.
mentioned too that we're more than willing to go before MARB if we need to also explain further this project that we're looking to do as well. I understand that this is city funds, the library is a separate entity, so it's kind of a gray area. So if we need to talk to MARB, then obviously we're more than willing to do that as well.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Hi, Colleen.
Hello.
So I think and to Councilman Donovan's point, I think it's important to note that even if we pass the $1 million, it has to go to the MARB,
Right.
and the MARB has to approve it. So before you kicked off any of those things that you articulated, you would need approval from both bodies, us
Okay.
and the MARB, to move forward. 634 Boston Post Road. How much was that site?
I was at least 200. I was right around the 200,000 in that range.
And I know that as time goes by, the construction costs continue to escalate. I know where are we at now for all in for, would you be able to tell me what a new library would cost, and then
New
what
library,
a new
so
library
what- yes.
and a fire department?
So when we originally did our library construction grant 2 years ago with the state, we were looking at 4.8 million. The last year, we also had Downs Construction also do a cost estimate for us. At that point, we were doing a 1-floor building. Now we're looking at a 2-floor building if we're just doing 634 Orange Avenue. That's between 10 and 12 million if we do a 2-story building. If we do a 1-story building, that knocks it down another $2 million, because you figure we're not doing 2 stairwells, we're not adding an elevator. Elevator alone is close to $1 million. So we would still love to really be able to do a 1-floor library. It takes away that maintenance aspect of having to do an elevator for that. Part of the reason why we're looking to also utilize our ARPA funds is for the architectural renderings. We're not sure yet how much it's gonna cost to do a library and the fire department. I don't know right now. I'm assuming we're probably looking at doubling that number that we were looking at for just doing just the library.
So we're around, if it was a 2-story, it's north of 12.
Yes,
If it's a 1-story,
we're under 10.
all right, so what's the runway to get to that? So if we give you
Well,
$1
we
million,
Yeah, so
right?
we also we're still going through that foreclosure process for 668. That's been held up since October of '21. If the city doesn't move forward with that by June 23rd, any of the work and funding that the city's put into foreclosing on that property will also go back to square one. We'll have to start that process all over again as well. So there's also a timeline with 668 as far as that piece goes too. We also do have a $1 million construction grant that we did get approved of already from the state library. With that grant, we need to at least have the funds in place for that by November of '24. So we're kind of trying to get all the ducks in a row right now. For us to go for community investment funding and for BEAD funding, we need to have the site in place. So we have to know that we have a site that's going to be feasible for both properties, to have both community services on that same site as well before we can even apply for those other grants. We've also been talking to Olivia, the grant writer, as well about some of these grants, and she said the same thing, that we have to have a site proposal ready before we can even look at doing some of this other funding. Because we're looking at doing a library and a fire department on the same property, that's also part of some brownfield funding, there's also some federal funding we could potentially go after as well, because we're looking to really minimize any cost that would be going out to West Haven residents for building the property. So there's a lot of money that's hopefully out there that we're trying to be able to cash in on as quickly as possible, so we want to try to get as much of this stuff in place as quickly as we can.
And I know that you hired a professional consultant to kind of give you an idea what if you had the capacity for fundraising
Right.
within the city. Did they give you a report?
Our report, we should be hopefully getting that by the end of this month. But from what I've been talking to them, they think it's really feasible that we're going to be able to raise the amount of money that we're looking to raise.
In the time frame that you're looking
In
to
the
raise
time
it?
frame that we're looking for.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I got a question, Colleen. If you don't get that property to foreclose on, then where do you stand? You just for a
So
library?
we can build just a library on 634. We know that that's possible. We've already gone before planning and zoning. We already have the approval for the parking and for the project itself. We've had the drainage work looked at for what we want to do. So we know we can do just the library. We also know that the fire department, though, has also been looking for space for many years. We've been looking at the same property for the last 2 years. So we were also looking to do some similar things. They were also looking to put in a community room. We're looking to have a community space. So by joining forces and being on that same property, we'll be able to help them be able to do the facility that they need, while we're also doing a facility looking forward to the future as well. And when you look at across the country at libraries and fire departments, even if they're not conjoined in one building, the amount of them that are next door to each other, actually, those numbers actually skyrocket quite a bit, because they're both community services. And a lot of times it makes sense for them to be on the same property.
Good. Anybody else?
I got one more.
Go ahead.
So, just something to think about. So if you apply for a library grant, right, with the library grant, I'm thinking no in my head before I ask the question, but with if you have a combined building, a library and a fire department, the library grant would probably be just specific to the library. I don't think they're gonna give money for the fire department.
No, and the state construction grants are only up to $1 million. So as long, from when I've talked to the state library, and I'd have to talk to them in further detail, but we're not there yet, we would be looking to, as long as all of the core pieces we're looking to do stay the same, that funding should be fine. In worst case scenario, if they say this project has changed too much, we can reapply for the funding again.
Yeah, I mean, I think you both have similar challenges, so it probably makes sense to go at them together, because if you went at them separately, I think it would be probably less probable. I mean, I think the challenge for the Allentown Fire Department is the fact that, you know, if they can't get any significant grant money, then that goes to the bottom line, the mill rate of the taxpayers in Allentown. So I think that would be a challenge.
And I think that's why when I've talked to people at the state and federal level too, they've also been very excited about the possibility of this project. And I really firmly believe, and this could be me just being overly positive, that we can get a lot of the funding at the state and federal level for the project. And I love the idea of having a state-of-the-art library and fire department that can help really bring up and elevate that area of Allentown as well. And it helps to redevelop a property that's been vacant for almost 30 years.
Thank you.
Hi, Colleen.
Hello.
I'm just curious, with the property that's being foreclosed on, can you tell us, is there anything that we can do as a council to help push that along?
As far as I know, yeah, it needs to get pushed. There's paperwork that has to get filed at the state level. When you look it up online, it says any of the last things that have been done was done in, I believe, it's October of 2021. So I imagine there's things that, I'm not quite sure what is involved in doing a foreclosure, but I believe probably talking to corporate counsel to make sure that it gets pushed forward as quick as possible.
Okay.
Because we really don't want to see that stop.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, that's it. Thank you, Colleen. Appreciate it very much.
All right, thank you very much.
By the way, Ken Carney is not gonna be at this meeting. He'll be at the next meeting, June 12th. He's away. All righty. Now we'll go to the Finance Department, the Finance Committee with Acting Chair Councilman Quaglione.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Taylor? How are you this evening, sir?
Are we,
I'm doing well, thank you.
doing attendance
Thank
or anything here on this finance committee?
What's that?
Attendance on the finance committee,
All right, if you want to.
please?
All right. Keep me honest, Stacy.
Thank you.
I'm new. So the time is 7:25. The Finance Committee is in session. Members are Councilwoman O'Connor, Councilwoman Akbarali, Councilwoman Hamilton, and myself, Councilman Quaglione, acting as chair. Councilwoman Hosky is absent this evening. Hello, Mr. Taylor.
How are you this evening?
Good, good, good. So, whatever synopsis you could give us about FY '23, and then I'd really like to talk about FY '24.
So for FY '23, as you know, we've had some challenges in the department, vacancies, people leaving, and we feel pretty proud that we finally figured out how to book some things that person was doing. However, we have still some entries to book for April for payroll. Payroll's paid. They got their money. But we haven't booked the entries, and we've struggled to get there, but I believe we'll have that done tomorrow morning. So that all that to say, I can't give you reports for the month of April. Looking at the rest of the accounts, it's a reflection of what you've seen year to date anyway. There's nothing really crazy that happened on it.
So we're still anticipating a surplus,
Absolutely.
more than $1?
More than $1 million.
Okay. Does the Finance Committee have any questions of Mr. Taylor for the FY '23 budget before we move to '24? Does anyone from the council have any questions for FY '23? All right, I think we can jump to FY '24, Mr. Taylor. We're in possession of the letter from MARB. Me personally, I don't think it's unexpected.
Right.
My take from it was that we have some backup work to do, largely surrounding the 5-year plan and documentation, but I'll leave that to you to kind of tell us what your expectation is and what potentially you're going to bring us next meeting.
So I've been working with OPM on what might be an appropriate response for the MARB, one that they could support at least and give their advice. And I do have a plan. We are pulling it together now. The 5-year plan as it is will be amended to show certain budgetary items that typically we don't hit the actuals on. The actuals don't compare. For example, vacancies. Working on trying to get the information to do an analysis of, like, the past 5 years, how we've done budget versus actual, especially on those positions that are vacant, and to come up with a rationale for how we might do going forward in that regard. This will be presented as a mitigation. In other words, a reduction in expense, which will create a surplus, which I will in turn apply to the general fund in order to show a growth in general fund balance every year. This is the same method that was employed by the city of Hartford when they amazingly got their budgets passed on the same day. I'm convinced this will work, and so that's where we're headed. That would be the viable 5-year plan point of the letter that you received.
And you'll share that with us as soon as you have
Yes,
a
the
draft.
intention is for you to have that ahead of a June 12th meeting, in which hopefully you'll be able to approve budget and 5-year plan, and then we'll take it to the MARB on the 15th, at which time they'll take it up.
So just for clarification, so we're we're gonna add to the fund balance with this year's surplus, something north of $1 million, right? And then we also allocated in the budget an additional $700,000.
I reduced that to 500, but yes.
What is it?
I reduced that to 500 based on a link
Okay,
change.
so they're still expecting more than that number.
And I don't know that they're per se expecting more than that number in that particular year. I do believe we can present a plan to do more than that number in '24, based on what we would call the mitigation efforts. And by the way, it would have the salary savings, and it would also have in there, we're working on a fee, we're working on the fee structure that we charge. Trying to put some sort of estimate together as to what we think is possible. And then we'll put something in there for that. So it'll be an increase in revenue, a decrease in expenses that we could then say we would apply first to the fund balance, second to the internal service funds. The reason I say it that way is because there already is, based on the way I built the 5-year plan, increased contributions to the internal service funds.
And the reason why I said it wasn't unexpected for me that the budget was disapproved is because we approved the budget without knowing what was in the Whittlesley report, right?
Correct.
And today, as we sit, we still don't know what's in the
still in the
Whittlesley
same
report. So, I mean, I would imagine that it was gonna look for mitigation efforts that are gonna require either outside resources or additional staffing that maybe we didn't consider fully in the budget that we approved a few weeks back, last month, whenever it was. So I guess my question is, I think it's important that the council hears the Whittlesley report. I'd rather hear it from an official than reading it in the newspaper.
Well, so would I. Well,
When do you think that that's
all
going to be?
honestly, I was there for the draft
Right.
report, as was,
Yeah, I know there was a couple of
councilmen
council
were there
people,
with us.
but they were in executive session, they couldn't share it, and they haven't shared it with me, that's for sure.
precisely.
So, yeah, I think it's important before we take that next step, if we could get,
Oh,
an official, report on that. So do you have any indication when that report's gonna come out? Or that it's
I
gonna
have
be okay?
not been told when that report will come out. I and the MARB were both hoping that it would have been last meeting, but it was not. There seems to be some frustration about that it hasn't come out, not only here but there. So, I would hope that it'd come out soon. I will tell you, having been to those meetings, heard their draft report, I did huddle up with Ed Edberg for a couple hours and talked
That gentleman is
through.
from Whittlesley?
I'm sorry, yes, he's the
Okay.
partner from Whittlesley that's running their engagement. We did come up with some estimates based on the things that he had already shared of what that might cost. And I did analyze that and compare to what I had in the contingency fund. As you might remember, I did increase that for next year.
Mhm.
Did not increase future years. So one of the things that I would also hope to do in this mitigation is fund what I perceive to be changes in our cost structure based on the Whittlesey report and the implementation. So we'll look to see that as well. But yes, a full-fledged report published. And I should back up. I said that there are some valid reasons why this has not been made public. And I'll just leave it at that if that's okay.
So is it fair to say that this year's budget, meaning upcoming, the '24 budget, there may be some requests to kind of move some money around, but the work that really has to be done is the 5-year plan?
Yes, and in fact, I did pull together a new forecast for FY23 because I felt like my forecast was a bit off. It is more favorable than it was last time, just so you know. Some of the revenues went up, some of the expenses changed a little bit, but some of the fluctuations between 22, 23, 24, and on, because of the different ways we budget, I haven't had time to fix that. But there were some fluctuations that were unexplained. I've got about 3 or 4 questions that are yet pending to provide answers. And our friends at OPM just sent an email 5 minutes before I came in here to the MARB asking if they had more questions. And but it would be good to get those questions sooner than later. I believe we're in pretty good shape. In fact, I was just spending some time in my office trying to contact people who might be able to help me with those answers.
Good. Finance Committee, any questions of Mr. Taylor regarding FY24? Put it out to the whole council. Anybody have any questions about FY24? Mr. Chairman?
Dave, I don't want to rush or anything, but do you have any idea when you can get this all together? You're going to get it before June 12th, or?
Yes, I will get it to you before June 12th. As I was describing the situation of not having April close, that's very heavy on my mind right now, and it's been a great distraction towards the budget. So therefore, I come in every day with my priority list, and I reprioritize it, and this is near the top every time. But I don't necessarily get to it, and I'm sure you can all relate to that in your own. Well, there was one other. Were you going to get to the action plan?
Yeah, you can speak to it, sure.
Okay, just unless there's another question on something that's out.
I'm good.
So you have received a document that looks like this.
Mhm.
It's an action plan. I'm happy to say that just about every one of these things were in process when we received this. And we will have just about all of them done. In fact, if you look at the cash items, the first one, I just need to get that from the banks. The second one, which is policy and procedure, confirmation of checks, these processes have been put in place to improve our situation between Rick Spryer and myself. We have changed the way we do business, and I'm sure you've heard of the no PO, no pay policy. And that particular policy would extend to how we create vendors, how we go, how we bid, the communication to every department head in the city, that what the procurement process is. We're putting that down on paper one final time and making sure it encompasses everything. And that particular activity is going to take care of just about everything on this page. There's a few things. We worked with ADP to segregate the duties of the payroll clerk from the HR side of that, or in our case, personnel side of that.
That's completed?
ADP indicated that it was complete. However, I did a little test. I asked our payroll processor to change my salary, and she could. She didn't change it. but she demonstrated that she still could. So I got back to ADP immediately, and hopefully they can figure that out and fix that problem. So that one's sitting there, and that's a lot of these. This week, we are putting in place independent review of the payroll prior to processing. You're looking at the independent reviewer. Hopefully that won't be for a long time. Get fully staffed, we can assign that to somebody else. New vendor setup has been centralized. I spoke with, Matt down at the Board of Education. He's all for it, no problem. So that will be something we have formalized and centralized, which were two of the issues with that on the report. And we are cleaning up the vendor database. We were hoping to wait till the next implementation, the next version of Munis was installed, and which would enable us to do this a lot quicker. It's just taking too long. And so Rick has started, Mr. Spryer has started to update the vendor database, deactivate vendors, and close POs for things that have been open for too long. So he's working his way through that right now. He worked on it today.
So we're
we've
gonna hit the
already-
6/15 milestone date on all these?
Yeah, some of the things that are outside of our control, where we're asking people to respond, may get past there. Ms. Kinnison at OPM has indicated that significant progress would not impede passage of the budget. However, on certain of these things, it would. I mean, if we've got one or two items where, hey, we just didn't get the response from this bank, I'm sure we will be okay.
Because some of these, and again, not to you, but some of these have been on the list for a very long time, right? Audit reports that go back maybe a decade.
That's correct.
Right, so. Okay, but this is good news. We have a
Some new
date.
sheriffs in town.
I appreciate that. Any comments or questions from the council regarding, Councilman Gallignano?
I'm just curious. You said that she can still change payroll, right? And then you called ADP, correct? So I assume.
First, I talked to ADP.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
first you talked to them.
Yeah, and because we had done they had been very proactive in getting some security changes enacted for us, and missed this one. I don't know how.
I
Yeah.
get it, because we're human, right? So I get all that.
Precisely.
So when did you make a call after you found out she could still change?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So there's no flick of the switch where they could just stop her from doing that? Because I assume today, at this point, she could still change payroll in her.
That would be my assumption as well. I
Do you find
don't
that an
know
issue?
enough. Of course I do.
So-
It's been an issue since before I got here.
Listen,
Yes.
I'm not blaming you.
Yeah.
I'm just asking because I would have thought that ADP would have fixed that right then and there before you hung up the phone. That would have been my assumption before I hung up the phone with them. I would have said, this needs to be fixed before I hang up the phone. I don't work with ADP. My company has their own payroll, so it's different. But if she could still have that, and I'm not saying she's gonna do anything, or he, or whatever,
Oh.
but as long as they have that ability, there is still that chance that could happen.
Which is why we're acting on it and trying to do what we can. There's
Again.
I can't. My expectations of ADP used to be as yours. Having worked with them for the last 7 months, they are not as high as yours. Of what I believe that they will do, I still would expect them to do it. However, my history with them shows me that they're a little slower than that. I will say, though, that over the last 2 months, they've been a heck of a lot more responsive. So I expect it to be quickly changed.
So I guess my next question would be, when did you find this out?
It was at about
This was today?
4 p.m.?
Today?
Yes.
So at 4:05, it should have been shut off, but that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
The only way I could have done that was to disable her access altogether.
No, I don't want you, no, I want them to shut it off.
I understand. That would be something I would do. I could do.
I guess as a finance director, I would think that you would have the ability to do that because you could do the segregation of duties at that point.
Mhm.
So why
Yeah.
wouldn't you have that credential that you could say, okay, you can't do this, you can do this? And
I might have that credential. However, I've never been trained.
Understood. I just find it an issue that this person could still do that.
No,
Not that
I do
this
too.
person's gonna do anything. That's enough. I barked enough. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Gallignano. Any other questions or comments from the council for Mr. Taylor? I don't see any, Mr. Taylor, so hang tight though, all right?
Thank you all.
Okay, next up is MARB meeting update. Councilwoman O'Connor?
The full MARB meeting was on May 18th. There was quite a few of us in Hartford, which was good. They were happy with that. Kim Kennison had commented on that. It started with Dave Taylor explaining all the changes that the council made to the budget, and they seemed quite pleased with it. The first thing they stated, though, was that the meeting in West Haven went very well. They were all pretty much in a good mood, so it was definitely a good thing to have that meeting. Thank you, Chairman. There are 32 open positions in City Hall right now, so there was a concern about who oversees what. It was said that we needed to show an organizational chart so that if needed, there can be some reorganization. There was also talk that we needed competitive salaries to recruit qualified people for the open positions. They would also like us to take, to examine some of the historical vacancies that we have, and if they've been historical, do we really need some of them? Definitely not all of them, but some of them, do they need to be filled? The budget was not approved, but it will be worked on and brought forth at the June 15th meeting. The 5-year plan, they were hoping, will help us plan to fill some of the open positions that Whittlesey deems critical to improving the city. It was stressed that the disapproval of the budget did not mean we did a bad job. The MARB needed some more information that will be forthcoming in the next week or so. David Taylor explained that he had spent an afternoon with Whittlesey, so we're already on our way. MARB was happy about that. Mr. Waxenberg brought up that he would like to see a mill decrease from both independent fire departments. So then, of course, they brought up the talk about consolidation. However, Secretary Beckham is not really that concerned, and he is okay with if that does never happen in his lifetime. He said that out loud. Ken Carney spoke about the ARPA money, what is being done with it, how the money is being spent, and it was stressed that everything above 50 grand has to go before the MARB. So the 2 action items that were passed were both over 50 grand, and we used the ARPA money. The money was passed to put in the audio and the cameras and everything here in the council chambers, the Harriet North Room, and the conference room. So that's already been approved. And the 2 playscapes for Painter Park were also approved. OPM has not finalized the contacts with the new potential financial manager. They're hoping that'll be in June. And then last but not least, the subcommittee meeting has not been scheduled. It's rescheduled from tomorrow. They wanted us to have time to fix what needs to be fixed on the budget, and they're hoping that the subcommittee meeting is a real working meeting so that we get everything done so we can approve it on the 12th, and then the MARB can approve it on the 15th so that the citizens can have their mill rate. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Any questions for Councilwoman O'Connor? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Taylor, any comment about police pension update? Is there anything that you want to? Okay. Thank you. Okay, communication B from Chief Joe Perno regarding animal shelter donations. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Councilwoman Hamilton, seconded by Councilwoman Akbarali and O'Connor. Any discussion amongst the Finance Committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Communication C from Ronald Dumas, CDA Housing Specialist regarding Neighborhood Assistance Program. When we come out to the whole council, I will ask for a public hearing time for next meeting. So that will be held. Communication D from Mark Basakia, CDA Manager, regarding the proposed CDBG budget as set by the Citizens Advisory Committee for program year 49, July 1, 23 to June 30, 24. Same, I'll be asking for a public hearing for next meeting, and we'll invite Mr. Dumas and Mr. Basakia and the Citizens Advisory Committee to join us if they'd like to while we go over that next meeting. So communication D for this evening will be held. Communication E from Joe Soto, Emergency Management Director, regarding the purchase of 18 automated external defibrillator systems from the opioid grant. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
By Councilwoman Hamilton and Councilwoman Akbarali. Mr. Soto, you want to come up to the podium, please? Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
So if you could kind of just give us a brief overview, refresh our memory about the opioid grant, what you've used the
Sure.
monies with so far, and what your request is for tonight.
Okay, so I've actually done 3 phases, or 2 phases. This would be the third. The first phase was I felt that it was the most vulnerable population, which is our kids. So I trained, along with a fellow coworker, all the administrators, all the nurses, and all the schools. And we now supplied Narcan in every school from elementary through to high school. So that was phase 1. That was, let's see, it was 75 kits, or 150 kits, in total 75 doses, so there's 1 kit, or 2 kits, or 2 doses per kit. So it came up to the 150 total of Narcan that's out there in the school system right now. The second phase was the police department. I didn't realize that none of our officers actually ever carried Narcan. So now I just actually delivered this morning 360 doses of Narcan to the police department. Actually, I'm sorry, 360 kits. So each officer will now carry Narcan on their person, from as a SWAT team to the foot patrol officer to everybody. That was $30,000. They're doing their own training in-house, so unfortunately I don't have to do that, but I did offer. The third phase is the replacement of the AEDs within the city. Initially, I was going to put a proposal in for 62 AEDs, which would put public access throughout the entire city, but that was over $200,000. So looking that we had roughly around $85,000 left on the account thus far, because we're expecting more funds. I cut it back to the essentials, which was City Hall was averaging 10 to, our youngest has 5, to as old as his 10-year AEDs. They're outdated. They all need to essentially be replaced. So we're going to replace the 5 AEDs within City Hall, 5 AEDs in the police department, so every floor in the police department will have one now, instead of just in the front doorway area, and then 1 in ERS. So, and then the last remaining 9 will go through every single fire department. One thing I discovered is that while the fire departments do have AEDs on their units, they have none in their buildings. So if the engine goes out, takes their AED with them, there's members within the building, something happens, they don't have anything. So now all those 18 AEDs will be replaced with new cabinetry, the latest, greatest AED. They will have a CPR kit with them, and also to complete the Narcan portion, they'll also have a dose of Narcan attached to them.
How about the housing authority buildings? Do they have AEDs?
Some do. I had a spreadsheet. I actually didn't bring the full spreadsheet with me. Like I said, it was to replace everything, including housing, all the buildings that are public, that are part of the city. It came up to close to 62 units, including replacing the ones in the high schools and the Board of Educations.
And if we approve this 45,000 tonight, what's left in the grant?
That's like 40,000.
And then is this a yearly addition to the grant? You get more?
This is part
you're
of.
gonna have more money.
There is going to be. It's all settlement funds from Big Farm from the opioid epidemic that was caused by the prescription drugs. So that's all going to be reimbursed. So each state is getting a certain allotment of funds, and then it's getting distributed down to to municipalities. So we're expecting. I heard probably anywhere between another 100 to 200,000 eventually over the next year or so.
And so there was a comment in public session, I think you weren't here yet, but regarding partnering with a not-for-profit that deals specifically with addiction or mental health services. Now I know that we not too long ago committed $100,000 of ARPA funds for mental health. Right, so it'll be just like any other ARPA money, it'll be a competitive grant. You'll have to apply to the ARPA committee and so on and so forth. But is there any thoughts about doing that, with additional money from the
Sure.
opioid grant?
And that's will be the next phase essentially. So once, my goal is to hopefully be able to replace the remaining AEDs at some point. And then the remaining funds, including probably the 40,000 that's left, is to go to public health. And they could either partner, they could, start doing some public education side of things. Right now, we didn't have the Narcan on the ground, and we did the education, and we have now the Narcan on the ground. Now it's really, should be preventative stage, getting billboards out there, getting information out there on preventative measures. I actually spoke with the Director of Health this morning about that.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see that next, right? So
Yep.
if we could have a proposal from the health director as to, again, what else we could do to supplement that public-private partnership. I think it's gonna be, again, the $100,000 is a good start, but
Sure.
I think we could probably funnel more in that direction. Any questions from the Finance Committee for Mr. Soto? Okay, I'll open it up to the whole council. Any questions for Mr. Soto? Councilwoman Tucker?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Good hour.
Good. Do you have, are there AEDs in any of the parks that we have around, like the kids are
And
playing?
The
football?
parks, I do not believe so. That was on my list. The problem with public access where we have them they have to be in a physical building, so there would be, Parks Department will be getting some, but it's gonna be in a physical building, not essentially where it'll be in a box outside.
Correct, I would
Because,
imagine.
well, no, there actually are projects out there right now where they're actually putting boxes out there where the public has access to it 24/7. But, I'm just, theft and things like that vandalism has occurred on those devices. So I've never been in support of it. I'd rather have it to where, staff has the availability to grab it and
Yeah, I'm
go.
thinking like Painter Park that has the building right there on the property, or,
Yep.
or,
They're included in the
Down Woods Park.
62, because it's gonna be also replacing the lifeguards as well.
Field,
Yeah,
you know.
because what's nice about these AEDs is they're compatible with our fire department, so they don't have to remove the pads. They could just literally plug and play and continue and just keep going.
Yeah. There's one other thing I was gonna ask, now it's gonna escape me. I'll come back. Let
It's
somebody
okay.
else go.
Mhm.
Hi, Joe.
Hey.
Could you clarify for me, it says here, fire department, 9 AEDs, 1 at each fire station. How many will they get at each fire station?
In each fire station?
It says 1 at each fire station, but it
It's-
says 9
it's-
AEDs.
There's 9 AEDs, so each firehouse, physical station will get one. And then the only one I included in the center district, I included the fire marshal's office, because they're a separate building from the firehouses. The other ones, they're within the actual station. So in total, there was 9 buildings once I tallied them up.
Okay, can you, just for a public record, can you tell us those? Just rattle them off.
I'm sorry?
Just for public record, could you rattle them off, the buildings?
I know Malloy Road, Elm Street. Yep, Fairfax.
Trenton Hill, Ocean Avenue.
It's like a joint effort here, right?
Off the top of my head, I can remember where all the stations are.
Oh, there's Second Avenue, right? There's
Second
Spring
Ave, yeah.
Street.
There are 8 fire stations total, plus the fire marshal's building.
Right.
Okay, okay. And then just one little, are these attached to the wall? How are we
Yes.
gonna prevent theft?
So they're in alarm boxes. So what's also, so these latest AEDs are Wi-Fi capable. So my hope is to connect them to Wi-Fi. So instead of actually having to go out and inspect each one of them, they will actually be tied to, they'll send an email. Whether the pads are expiring, the batteries are going dead, or somebody actually used the AED, will automatically send a report to me or to whoever we designate to receive those emails.
Okay, that's me. Well said, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Hamilton?
Yeah.
You might have mentioned this, hi Joe.
Hey, yeah, good, how are you?
Expiration on the kits, how long do they last? Like, does the Narcan itself last?
The ones we received are expiring in 2025. So with the allotment that I purchased for the police department, the price went down from 85 to 75. So I said, just add them in kits. So we wound up getting almost 47 extra kits that I have now. They're gonna be held in the health department. And then 18 of those kits are gonna go to the AEDs, so we don't have to purchase that.
Thank you.
I guess I remember what I was gonna ask now about the schools.
Oh.
I'm sure they all have their AEDs, but how old are they? Are they gonna age out soon? Are they in the pipeline for
Some are gonna
replacement?
start aging out soon. The high school just purchased brand new ones, but I'm gonna actually replace them because they're not compatible with the fire service. So my goal is to replace those and put those as a spare type device.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Joe, I mean, just me personally, so I would think maybe a next logical step, again, is to identify the housing authority buildings. And then also, as we're doing this camera project along the boardwalk, maybe that'd be a good opportunity, and then just make sure that they're under a camera, right? So
Right.
to
Yeah,
begin the public space use, I think that, that may be important, so.
They do have them, they're about $8,000 though, each station to put in public, because they're alarmed and everything cameraed and have power source and everything to them. But
Yeah, so.
definitely something we can do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm clearly in support. I mean, I think it's again, it's a life-saving device, just like Narcan. I would like to see that other 40,000 come back to us with a proposal from the health director.
Absolutely.
Okay? Councilman Boris, and then Councilman Dunnigan.
Yeah.
How user-friendly are these?
I'm very. As soon as you turn them on, it tells you exactly what to do, how to do it, and it's pretty much yelling at you until you do it. So, yeah. So, it'll tell you, as soon as you open it, it'll say attach the pads, then it'll tell you to plug the pads in. And as it's going on, it'll light up different sections of the AED, what to do. And then it'll tell you to start CPR, and then, or analyze and everything, so. Yep.
Councilman Donovan?
Thank you. Joe, again, thank you for everything that you do. Speaking of the boardwalk, are we planning to have one at the bathhouse area? I know the police sometimes use that for their.
I have been in talks about, but it's unfortunately would be indoors,
Yeah.
so it would be accessible when somebody is there.
Right.
It won't be fully public access while we're there.
Right,
essentially.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, for the Finance Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Communication B from the May 8th, 2023 agenda from Jennifer Amendola, Director of VRS, regarding the license and agreement with Yale University Public Safety regarding microwave equipment installation at 710 Jonesville Road, West Haven. Utilize the radio equipment building at Shingle Hill Tower site, and that's good enough. That's Communication B in front of us this evening. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve by Councilwoman Hamilton, second by Councilwoman Akbarali and Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Jen, could I just have you come on up just for the...
Councilwoman Tucker, I brought the attorney this time. No, it's gotta be for you, I gotta help, I don't have the answers, so I brought the answers with me. But I do have something that did not get to, be distributed to you, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna pass a couple of them out. Do you want me to leave them, sir?
Sure, please, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Oh, that's good.
Thank you,
Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
So Jen, we had a healthy discussion about this proposal last meeting. You sent us some supplemental information that we reviewed, and basically I think the only change is that the shed is part of the Regional Water Authority's lease, right? on that Shingle Hill property. And I think my two comments were, I want to make sure the RWA is okay with us adding
Yep.
Yale's equipment in there. And
So
I-
that's what I just passed out, that we didn't have that in time. So just so you know, we were waiting to see if Regional Water wrote back with, where we would have just executed it with the attorney from Yale, but, they didn't write back in time, so we just gave you the draft of what it's gonna be.
I spoke with the police chief because strangely enough, the contract is between the police department and RWA as opposed to the city
Yep.
and RWA, and the chief is in favor of this proposal moving forward. Is there any questions for the ERS director, if that's the right title?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, Finance Committee? How about the entire council? Anybody have a question?
You know, the only question that I had was around, because Mrs. Dwyer was named.
Yeah.
and the
Which we
implication was that-
confirmed with
Right,
doing
so
this.
that was the question that I had, it needed to be more clear.
Well,
to me.
and I wanted him to be able to explain why it said to you, what did it say?
It just seems strange to me that a private citizen would be
Yeah.
the one holding a
Revocable
contractual
license and agreement. That's the part you were asking me, so
Yeah.
I had the attorney make sure he explained his agreement.
Attorney, you want to give your name for the record, if you have anything you want to offer?
Sure. Well, my name is Attorney Thomas Kusa. I'm with Sussman Duffy Sagaloff out of New Haven. As you said, only comment I had is that we have submitted the amended license agreement to the Regional Water Authority. It's being submitted to their attorneys. It's a fairly short amendment. There's really not a whole lot to debate there. So my understanding is it needs to go through the process, but there should be no problem getting that done. I have submitted the license agreement to Yale for their review. My understanding is their contractor's been out of town on vacation, and I've been emailing him back and forth. He has not received any comment as of yet, but right now we're just waiting to hear.
So no concerns if we amend the motion that says that we're in favor of it, as long as this amendment is executed between the
Between the Water Authority.
and the police department. That's okay
There
with you?
shouldn't be any issue with that.
No.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? My only Councilwoman
There
Tucker?
was some language in the last document that had the confusing language between licensing and I think permit.
Because
permit
it's
or
a
license.
revocable license and
Well,
agreement.
insofar as what we have here is revocable license agreement, is that your primary question? What's the nature of a license agreement?
Well, the language is the same, there's both references in one document, and so I was confused about what.
So it's
each
the
one
licensing
meant.
agreement, and then what, one of the councilmen had asked about was the 5 years and how we would be paying, but it's not that we're paying like a lease, so to speak.
Well, insofar as you're
Right?
talking about.
Wasn't that the one?
The sub-agreement between the city and Yale, is what the police department and Yale, as far as, there is more or less, they're going to make these certain upgrades to the system, if I understand it correctly.
Yes, correct.
And that, they're not going to be paying any money as part of this license agreement, they're just going to make certain upgrades that the system needs anyways, but they're going to do that as, basically as compensation towards us giving them use of the shelter on the.
So I was able to determine that.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You all set, Councilwoman Tucker?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, back to the Finance Committee. I'd like to amend the motion. The motion is to approve with the stipulation that the amendment to license and agreement between the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority and the Department of Police Services, City of West Haven, is successfully executed. Is there a second?
So moved.
Second by Councilwoman Hamilton and O'Connor. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Communication C from the May 8, 2023 agenda from Simon McDonald, Director of Membership and Marketing, Regional Chamber of Commerce, Milford and West Haven, regarding a program that consists of hanging banners on Captain Thomas Boulevard with the city seal and business logo. Is there a motion to bring this out for discussion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilwoman Hamilton, seconded by Councilwoman O'Connor and Councilwoman Akbarali. Discussion. Anybody have any discussion? I'll defer.
Okay, I'm concerned about the letter that was given to us. 'Cause where do we draw the line? I mean, I bartended for years. Alcohol is a terrible thing. Are we gonna let package stores and bars have banners?
It's
But
your call.
Mr. McDonald, right now, we're having discussion
Oh, I
amongst the
see.
council. If we need, if we,
I
we'll ask you, all right?
I mean, shooting ranges are legal, as is marijuana. I'm not saying we need to put banners with guns on it, nor do we need to put pot leaves on it, but they're all legal businesses. So what do we say? That, you know, we can't have guns, we can't have alcohol, we can't have marijuana. And so what's next? Who are we gonna say, you can't put a banner up? I think it has to be all or nothing.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Anyone else on the Finance Committee? So my thought, we all received the legal memorandum from the Corporation Counsel's office, which cites a specific Supreme Court case that basically says, if you offer public space, in this case it was Boston offering a flagpole, and you don't have any policy around that public space, then you can't decline anyone from, in this case, raising a flag on that public flagpole. I think the problem is here, and maybe someday we'll get better, is that the process needs to be first, and the program needs to be second. In this case, well-intended,
Understood.
not anything against you or the chamber, Mr. McDonald, because I appreciate you taking the initiative. The program started without any rules around it. So, Mr. Tamaro, I don't know whether he's right or he's wrong, but, you know, I don't have the ability to single-handedly say you could have it or you can't have it, or how about a church or a synagogue or a political organization, or as Councilwoman O'Connor said, you know, what happens if, you know, they're licensed businesses in the city of West Haven, but do we want to advertise, you know, vaping? Do we want to advertise alcohol? So I think we need to have a policy first before we have a program, in my opinion. So if we won't be able to tell anybody that they cannot participate unless we have a policy. It's kind of a free-for-all, and that's what the Supreme Court kind of cited back in the case with the city of Boston. So, and that was May 2nd, 2022. I'll open it up to the entire council if they have any thoughts or comments. We're under discussion. Councilman Boris?
I do agree. I think that, it sounds disturbing if, you know, there was no rules put. So I think that before we vote anything, there should be rules. And this way, then we can make the right decision on what we feel is appropriate to be on those banners. So I do agree with you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Boris. Councilman Garthwaite?
I feel that we cannot discriminate against any business. All businesses should be included, whether or not we don't have to have a picture of a gun or a picture of a little vape pen, but just have the picture of the font. I think everyone should be included.
Thank you. Chairman?
My personal opinion on something like this is gonna be very, very touchy. So personally, I think the city and the council should come up with a city ordinance on banners in the city. How they're put up, what could be put up, how long do they stay, who maintains them, and who gets to get one put up on the post, first come, first serve. Because I could tell you right now, if you got 25 poles out there and 27 people put it, and you decide to put somebody's up and you didn't put his up, he's gonna say, come to my meeting and try and say, why didn't you put mine up, or why didn't you do that up? And I really don't wanna hear that, and I don't think we have time to hear that. So I think that the city should come up with an ordinance on this whole situation before we pass anything on this. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilman Donovan, then Councilwoman Johnstone.
Yeah, in light of stuff that came up again, Mr. McDonald, thank you very much for
Thank you.
doing what you do for the chamber, for West Haven. I told you this many times, I do appreciate everything, and we're all on a learning curve with a lot of things as well, but, yeah, in light of the information that's being put out there now, and an ordinance or something like that needs to be put in place, because, yeah, what would stop, you know, a communist flag or a Nazi flag or BLM or Blue Lives, you know, anything that people could just put up now publicly. So, yeah, I do believe that an ordinance needs to be put in place before we, just say, okay. Seems like a simple thing that, you know, needed to be done, but more information comes out, and so I understand that as well, so, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Johnston.
Yeah, so kind of to finish processing this, the intentions were well, but we're kind of starting this theme again that MARB keeps reminding us that we're just shooting from the hip, and I'm not pointing the finger at you, because it was like, hey, Simon, you know, help us with this, do it, but we failed to process, we failed to organize, and we just brought this up at our, I call it the MARB Teeth Party at the high school there, is we failed to communicate. So, you know, we're all sitting here, and I could tell you, I'm still trying to figure out who's in charge of this, because it's, is it this person or is it that person? So if there's no communication, if there's no process, and we actually had a gentleman here last year during public comment. I remember there was an issue with, he had a personal issue with a flag at a public works building, and we had some discussion, and as always, for some reason in West Haven, we never started it, nothing came of it, and it got pushed aside. So I think, you know, going back to the intentions were well, but I understand the timing, and summer is around the corner, and I think there's 14 school days left. But this is something that is gonna take some time to process, because if it's not, and this is my opinion, if it's not done right, if it's not done appropriately, and it's rushed, and we put the cart before the horse yet again, it's gonna blow up in our faces, and it's a missed opportunity. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilwoman Tucker?
Currently, my understanding is that this is only inclusive of Captain Thomas Boulevard.
That was yeah, I mean, that was the start of the sales, and then if I sold all of those, I would go up other streets that have lampposts on them, sure.
Right, so to go back to the point that was made, I think it's really important that we kind of define, you know, what this program will look like, including geographically where these will be located, you know, what these signs will be allowed to hang on. Like, that level of detail, I think, is necessary. Captain Thomas Boulevard is just one street on one side of West Haven, and West Haven's far bigger than that. We have multiple businesses, and 25 poles would never cover all the businesses, which leads to us having to have somebody make the choices about what goes up and what doesn't, which would lead to discriminatory practices, because that's the way people see the world right now. It's either, you know, the way you like it, or it's not the way you don't, you know. So I think you're gonna have to really be thoughtful, or we are gonna have to really be thoughtful, and my recommendation would be to have Corporation Counsel probably give us some language that would be inclusive of all of those details, what's allowable, what's not, how we come to those decisions about what's allowable and what's not, and geographically where they'll be located. Is there gonna be a body that forms that helps to decide what's gonna go up and what's not? Will there be a time frame for people to be able to petition for their sign to be one that's accepted, or, you know, what, I don't know. But those details, I think, it has to get that granular, and that level of detail probably needs to be included for it to be fair, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Tucker. Anyone else from the council have anything? All right, I just want to, again, I'm speaking from an opinion from Corp Counsel, and I think it's important, because at the end of the day, we're the fiduciaries of the city, and we need to make decisions that aren't going to put us in any legal jeopardy. And having no policy around this program, in my mind, puts us in legal jeopardy. So the Corporation Council's advice is the advice of the Corporation Council for the City of West Haven, that the city must implement a more specific flag, posting, banner, display policy to avoid future challenges and criticisms in this area. So, Stacy, I'd ask if you could pen a letter to the Corp Council and ask ask them to draft us up some language regarding a flag posting and banner policy, and refer to a lot of the points that Councilwoman Tucker made. So that being said, Mr. Chairman, that communication will be held this evening, and that concludes the business of the Finance Committee at 8:20.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. You don't need the sample then?
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, he could leave it if he wants.
I gotta give it back.
Okay, okay.
Any unfinished business? Any committee reports? Clerk will read Communication A into the record.
Okay, we have Communication A from the tax collector regarding overpayment refunds for May 2023, which will be filed with tonight's minutes.
Thank you,
Mr.
Stacy.
Chairman.
Thank you, and we're going back to committees, which will start with the Finance Committee. Councilman Quagliani.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication B to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of animal shelter donations. Reports that the committee met on the 22nd day of May 2023 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the West Haven Police Department has received the following donations totaling $400 for the animal shelter per Connecticut Statute 7148C 3A and B and General Order 98-4. We are forwarding these donations for approval. The City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the animal shelter donations to be deposited into the animal shelter donations account 101-00000028285. Robert Davis, $20. Lois DiOrio, $25. Roberta Penna, $50. Thomas Williams, $25. Angela Russo, $100. Kristen Wetmore, $50. Joan Shea, $25. Eleanor Froelich, $50. Barbara Brown, $15. Barbara Brown again, $15. First Congregational Church, $25.
Councilman Quagliani brought forward approval of Communication B as read into the record. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Communication C from Ronald Dumas, CDA Housing Specialist regarding Neighborhood Assistance Program. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to schedule a public hearing.
I'm gonna do
50.
6:50?
6:50? Okay.
June
6:50, June 12th.
Correct.
Communication D from Mark Vasaki, a CDA manager, regarding the proposed CDBG budget as set by the Citizen Advisory Committee for program year 49, July 1, 23 to June 30, 24. I'd like to schedule a public hearing for June the 12th as well.
6:55, June 12th.
You're the chairman.
Did you invite the Citizens Advisory Committee?
Yes, and I'd ask that we invite the Mr. Basaki and Mr. Dumas and the Citizens Advisory Committee if they'd like to participate.
Will do.
We will take care of that.
Thank you, I'm looking for it.
This is,
But that's not the resolution.
Need it?
I got it. Oh, that's an awfully long one. Communication E from Joe Soto, Emergency Management Director, regarding the purchase of 18 automated defibrillator AED systems to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of Joe Soto, Emergency Management Director, for the purchase of 18 new AED systems, reports that the committee met on the 22nd day of May 2023 to consider said matter. Is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Whereas the city is in receipt of certain opioid legal settlement funds, hereinafter referred to as opiate funds, whereas the mayor has submitted to the council a spending plan for the expenditure of the opioid settlement funds, whereas the city council has fiscal responsibility for the appropriation of the funds under Section 4 of the city charter entitled Supplemental Appropriation, whereas the mayor and her administration have executive duties for administering said funds, including but not limited to the purchasing requirements of Chapter 42 of the City of the Code of the City of West Haven, whereas this resolution is intended to approve a new appropriation and does not supersede or replace any previous resolutions made on the same subject. Resolved that the City Council hereby appropriates funding for the following project. 2023 Emergency Management Department Overdose Response Program funds are appropriated for the purchase of 18 new automated external defibrillators, AED systems, and a supply of Narcan to be co-located in West Haven City Hall, the fire stations, and the police department. Approved funding of $45,396.77. Further resolved that Mayor Nancy R. Rossi, as the mayor of the city of West Haven, shall institute a program operated by the Emergency Management Director to purchase 18 AEDs and Narcan medication to respond to accidental drug overdose and/or medical emergencies at City Hall, Police Department, and the Fire Departments. Provide expense report, accounting reports to the City Council for oversight and monitoring. That all project cost overruns shall be approved by the City Council before costs are incurred, that all project surplus be returned to the opioid fund for further action by the City Council, and the Council reserves the balance of the funds in the account for future funding requests. Further resolved, Nancy R. Rossi, as Mayor of the City of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents related to this resolution on behalf of the City of West Haven to do and perform all the acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all documents and agreements contemplated by such documents.
Councilman Quaglin and I brought forward to approve communication E as read into the record. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I actually had a question. You know how he talked about that phase 4 would be, he was gonna give the 40,000 and then extra money, to the health department so that an organization may ask for it for use for people with addiction. How would that said agency get in touch with the health department to access that money?
Joe, we have a question.
You had mentioned that phase 4 was going more with the people. You know, you had given the money to the health department. So if an agency wants to work with the city of West Haven to help with addiction, how would they go to the health department and say, we'd like to apply for this
I
money?
think the best bet would probably have them go to the health department and, put a proposal together and say this is what they would like to do with the funds.
I mean, my thought is that we would have an item on the agenda that says they want us to approve $40,000 for community partnership regarding addiction services, and then we would discuss that and make that, we would find that information out at that time, what the process is, and we could kind of add to what the process is, right? We could pass a motion that kind of articulates what the process we think should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my discussion with Maureen this morning was, to possibly, using one of their health educators to start the process of developing the campaign, the information to get out there on the billboards and the information to get out to the citizens. But it doesn't preclude any nonprofit agency for coming in and saying, hey, I would like to, just a certain project that I would like to do, is it possible to, apply for the Narcan funding? But I would stress that they would have to come in with a proposal and not just say, we want some money for some project without actually coming in with some deliverables.
Thank you, that was helpful.
Currently, is there a process, currently, is there a process in place, or maybe this is for anybody, but currently, is there a process in place that anyone knows about? Because the funds are not earmarked for a particular use. There's really, it's not clear to me like how you get at those funds without there being some kind of potential for.
I don't think there's an official process in place. Each time I came up with a proposal, I did a formal proposal, submitted it for approval, and that's how I was able to utilize the funds. So I kind of guess I developed the process as, having a formal proposal with, costs, at least an estimate of what the cost was gonna be and how it was gonna be put out there to the public.
So,
I think what would, in my mind, we would say the communication comes in front of us for 40, whatever the number is.
Yep.
If we approve it, then an RFQ goes out through the purchasing department saying we would like interested nonprofits or whomever to bid on this criteria, right? And then that's where that agency would come in and they would propose what they want to do with that money.
Right, that makes sense.
I would think that's how it would do.
It makes sense to me, but I just question whether or not the health department would be equipped to handle that type of.
Well, the purchasing department, the procurement department would do
Gotcha.
that.
Right. That's what I wanna know. I wanna just make sure somebody's in place to deal with that kind of money, and not put that on people who are not really used to.
Well, that's the way
Dealing
they
with
would
it.
write it up. That way there it goes to them.
Yeah, I understand now, because he just mentioned purchasing. Before that, I didn't hear that. I heard health department. And
Well-
if that came to me, I wouldn't.
Right. Well, each time I came over with a proposal, I actually came in front of the city council, and then it got approved in a resolution, then the funds were then transferred or authorized to be spent.
Okay,
So
makes
on
sense.
all three projects, permission was asked through the council.
It makes sense. Thank
I
you.
think that should stay.
You're all set.
All set?
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say is that we do have, organizations right here in West Haven, in the 5th District, we have apps, and they'd be an organization that might wanna tap into, you know, how we can best use it for the public.
Sure.
That's it.
Any more
My only comment is I wrote to the procurement director and I asked about, you know, did this go out to bid and whatnot, so he showed me that it's actually identified on the state contract, so they're gonna utilize that, so again, after they have to still go through all their checks and balances, so. That's it.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Communication B, from the May 8, 2023 agenda to the Honorable City Council, City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance almost referred the matter of a license and agreement with the Yale University Public Safety concerning microwave equipment installation at 710 Jonesville Road, West Haven. From the May 8, 2023 agenda, reports that the committee met on the 22nd day of May 2023 to consider said matter. Is the unanimous opinion of the committee the following motion be brought forward. Whereas the City of West Haven seeks to protect its residents from harm to the fullest extent possible at the lowest possible cost to the taxpayers, and whereas Yale University seeks to protect its employees, students, visitors, and vendors to the fullest extent possible in the City of West Haven and collaborate with the City of West Haven, and whereas the city will save in excess of $1 million in infrastructure improvements by entering into an agreement with the Yale University Public Safety Department, whereas all public safety entities in the City of West Haven support this contract with Yale University Public Safety. Now resolved, the City Council instruction empowers Mayor Nancy R. Rossi to enter into contract and license agreement with Yale University Public Safety concerning microwave equipment installation at 710 Jonesville Road, West Haven, the Shingle Hill RWA property. The contract shall have an initial term of 5 years with a provision for extension. The proposed contract for this purpose is attached and incorporated in this document. And also, the amendment to the license and agreement between the Southern Connecticut Regional Water Authority and the Department of West Haven, the Department of Police Services, City of West Haven, will be successfully executed between those two parties.
Councilman Quagliani brought forward to approve Communication B from May 8th as read into the record.
Second.
Any discussion? Really on the ball.
Oh, I do have discussion. Councilman Bruno, sends his regrets he couldn't make it this evening, and he's also, even though the vote doesn't count, he's also fully in support of this.
Oh, thank you. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Communication C from the May 8, 2023 agenda has been held.
Thank you, Councilman Quagliani. That's it for committees, adoptions for city ordinances and previous. None. Council liaison reports? None. New business? I got a comment on the new business. I just want to thank all the council people that showed up to the meeting that we had with the MARB. It was very, very, very good, very informative, very productive as far as I'm concerned, and I want to thank everybody that did put in their input, and hopefully that's a step forward that we get this city back on track. Anybody else? No?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening.